Sheriff from the Kalamazoo County Sheriff's Department, Vernon Coakley from the Kalamazoo Department of Public Safety. First, on behalf of myself, all of us here, and everyone, I want to express our condolences to the families of the victims from last evening's horrific crimes. This is just the most awful thing I can think of having happened, and to have to stand here and talk about these kinds of crimes is just a terrible thing. The next most important thing is to reassure everyone that there is no continuing threat to the safety of this community. We have a suspect in custody. We have no reason to believe that there was more than one person involved in any of these incidents. In fact, we have every reason to believe, based upon the evidence that we have in this case, that there was only one shooter. That person is now in custody. We have 3 separate incidences that happened Saturday night. The first happened approximately 6:00 p.m. at the Meadows Townhomes on G Avenue in Richland Township. The second happened on Stadium Drive at the Sealy Automotive Group's Ford Kia stores. The third incident took place at the Cracker Barrel restaurant on 9th Street in Oshtemo Township. Eight people have been shot. One person was shot at the Meadows apartment. She was shot multiple times. She was severely injured. She is, however, expected to survive those injuries. 2 men, an 18-year-old and an adult male, were shot and killed at the Sealy Automotive Group stores. 5 people, 4 adult women and a 14-year-old girl, were shot at the Cracker Barrel restaurant. 4 of those women were killed. The 14-year-old is not, as was earlier reported, deceased. She is still alive. She is seriously, gravely injured, but she is still alive at this point. So we have 6 dead, 2 severely injured. That we have a suspect in custody is a testament to the work of these people here in this room, their departments, and the many officers that serve this community. The Kalamazoo County Sheriff's Department, the Kalamazoo Department of Public Safety, the Michigan State Police, even the Kalamazoo Valley Community College Police Force were on scene immediately at these incidences. They shared information. They recognized that they were all connected. They quickly were able to mobilize resources. And as a result, we were able to bring a person into custody this evening who is responsible for each of these incidents. In addition to the police forces, I'd be remiss if I did not mention the work that the Sealy Automotive Group and the management at the Cracker Barrel restaurant did to assist in this case. Without their immediate response and assistance to aid the police in this community, we probably would not be here saying we have a suspect in custody. Their assistance was instrumental in helping the police make this arrest. The arrest took place in the city of Kalamazoo. A Kalamazoo County Sheriff's deputy saw the suspect car as it was leaving a local bar in downtown Kalamazoo. He followed the car. The Kalamazoo Department of Public Safety was able to mobilize people as a backup. They pulled the car over without incident. They were able to make an arrest of the suspect without any significant incident. As has been previously reported, there was a gun seized in that arrest. There was additional evidence as well that was seized in that arrest. After the suspect was taken into custody, multiple police agencies have participated in questioning the suspect. Obviously, there is a lot more to do in this case. This is an ongoing investigation. There are police out there right now continuing that investigation, drafting and executing search warrants, collecting additional evidence. The Michigan State Police Crime Laboratory, as well as our local crime lab, will be analyzing evidence yet today and in the days and weeks to come. Moving forward, I suspect, or not suspect, what will happen is the police reports from this incident will be completed today to the best that they can. They will be compiled and presented to my office tomorrow. I suspect that there will be charges and an arraignment of the suspect Monday afternoon. I am not going to, at this time, identify those people who were shot and killed, shot and injured. The police are still in the process of notifying their families out of respect for the victims and those victims' families. We will wait until that job has been completed before we release the identity of any of the victims in this community. The suspect information, the person who is in custody, his name is Jason Brian Dalton, D-A-L-T-O-N. His date of birth is June 22, 1970. The Kalamazoo Department of Public Safety has photos that they can use to provide for you. The Kalamazoo County Sheriff's Department will also make the information available online if you want to get a picture of the suspect in this case. We are very confident that we have the right person in custody. We have significant evidence to tie him to these incidents. We are not going to go into in detail that evidence now. It wouldn't be appropriate to do so. We want to make sure that we do things right. This is obviously a very, very tragic circumstance, a very important legal proceeding moving forward here, and we wouldn't want to do anything that's going to jeopardize our ability to prosecute Mr. Dalton. I'll be happy to try and answer questions that you might have. If I'm not able to, I'll look to my colleagues here for their help. But again, obviously, I hope that you will understand that there is information that we simply cannot let out at this time. More will be coming out tomorrow and in the days after that as we move through the legal process.
Jeff, are all the victims from this area?
I believe so.
When I say this area, I mean Kalamazoo.
Yes, they're all from this community.
Jeff, has Dalton admitted to any of this, and what have you learned about a possible motive?
I can't comment on whether or not Mr. Dalton has made any statements. Ethically, I would prohibit it from making those kinds of comments. As to a motive, that's one of the things that we're working hard to try and establish. At this point, the connection between these three incidents, between these three cases, is the defendant, is Mr. Dalton. There is no connection that we're aware of between the three different sets of victims to each other or any of the victims to Mr. Dalton. They appear to have been chosen at random because they were available.
What other evidence was inside the car besides the gun that you had previously mentioned?
Again, I'm gonna ask for your patience as we move forward with this before we start talking about other evidence that has been seized from Mr. Dalton, his person, or from the car, or as a result of the execution of search warrants, because that part of the investigation is ongoing.
Can you tell us anything about what his state of mind kind of seemed to be like when he was arrested?
There was no struggle. Mr. Dalton did not fight with the police or present a challenge with a weapon or anything like that. I'm not going to describe him as cooperative, but I will describe him as there was no struggle involved.
Is it true he has no criminal record, Joe?
Not that I'm aware of.
So, I know you can't tell us what he said, but can you share his emotional state? Did he seem emotional? Did he seem sad or remorseful? Had he picked him up from the bar? Was he drunk? Can you share anything about his state?
He seemed pretty even-tempered.
Detached?
I don't know if I would use that word. He did not, again, like I tried to describe, he did not present in a combative way or in an emotional way at all. He was cooperative with the officers in being taken into custody and being brought to the station.
Any indication that he's being treated for any kind of mental illness?
I don't have any information one way or the other as to that. That, again, is something that I'm expecting that the police will be working on over the next days and weeks.
Jeff, what about a family, children?
Don't have
wife?
any information regarding, there's no information regarding his family that I am willing to talk about right now.
Job?
Was anything found in that home that you did search that you believed belonged to him?
It did belong to him. There were items of evidentiary value found in that home. It is not something that I'm going to be talking about yet.
Was there anything to kind of indicate that it was a premeditated type of attack?
The first incident took place at 6 p.m. The next incident did not take place until shortly after 10. The third incident took place about 10 minutes after the second. I'd say that the pattern that is here, as well as the evidence that we have from each of those scenes at the Cracker Barrel and Sealy Automotive, would go towards that. These weren't sudden explosions. These were, this was done intentionally.
I know you can't really speak about evidence, but do you have any evidence that would support that this was premeditated?
As I just said, the timeline of this, as well as there is videotapes of the incidents both at Sealy and at the Cracker Barrel that show the shootings.
Any idea
So he
even
shot,
from him?
just to be clear, he shot 8 people, and then he goes to a bar and spends time peacefully in the bar?
No. He was seen leaving the parking lot of the bar by an officer. And if I misled you in that, that's my bad, my apology. He was seen in the car leaving the parking lot of that bar.
And what kind of weapon did you see? Handgun?
It was
long gun?
a handgun, semi-automatic
And
handgun.
that is the weapon that you expect committed, that was used in the crime?
It is consistent with the evidence found at the scenes of these crimes.
Jeff, is
And
there
obviously, you
any
guys had to
evidence
build
at all
up to
that
get
this
to the
was?
point of the HHR, the car that you were looking for. Was that because citizens were calling you guys and giving you guys a description? Was it video that first tipped you off? How
The video is what tipped us off to the car.
Is it
Into
expected
what-
that that video will be released today?
No.
Jeff,
Was
Jeff-
it what
Jeff,
he
is
was
this
doing?
terrorism? I mean,
No.
was this guy a terrorist?
Was
I don't have any reason to believe that it was anything like that at all.
Was this a self-recorded video by the,
No. These were video cameras from the businesses that were able to, because of the cooperation from those businesses, were able to be made available to law enforcement immediately for their assistance in the investigation.
Was the gun obtained legally by him? Did he have a license for that gun, Jeff?
I don't know if he had a license for that gun or not.
Any idea what he was doing between 6 o'clock and 10 PM, that 4-hour span?
The police are trying right now to put together that timeline. Yes, we do have some idea about where he went between the metal apartment shooting and Sealy. I can't lay it out minute by minute for you yet, but we do have information about his whereabouts
Did he go
during that
shopping?
time frame.
What did he do?
I'm not gonna talk about it right now.
do you
Now,
worry that
you
there
said
could be
that
more
the
scenes?
victims aren't gonna be identified yet, but it's been reported that the two men shot at the car dealership were a father and son, and there were 4 women and the teenage girl. Were they related, not to each other, but were in each of those incidents the victims related to each other or a part of a group?
I believe that the 2 victims at Sealy were related to each other. As to the Cracker Barrel, I'm not sure what the relationship was between those 5.
We're still working through that.
Were they a group together?
They were together in 2 vehicles. We're not sure of what their relationship was to each other. The Michigan State Police are continuing to investigate that. There was a question about, is there other scenes? There are no other scenes that we're aware of, obviously. There was an immediate concern that there could be other scenes. The police have and are continuing to check between Sealy and Cracker Barrel in order to make sure that we don't have another scene there. There has been other investigations based on the information that has been developed in this case that has been checked. We remain concerned, but there is no other scenes that we're aware of, and we're hopeful that there are no other ones.
You guys obviously have the difficult task of really reaching out to these families at this point.
Yes.
Obviously, this is going to send a shockwave through the community. Just stepping away from your position, when you reflect on that, you just what this city's been through the last 4 hours.
It's hard to put into words the impact that something like this has. To be there and to know the loss that the community has suffered, the loss that the community will continue to suffer. You can't begin to put that into words. What you end up doing is focusing on what my colleagues in law enforcement are doing. How do we put an end to the fear that this is causing? When something like this happens, where you have one, and that happens sometimes, right? Sometimes bad things happen, we have a shooting. But then you have another one, and what's going on? And then you have a third, and there's this sense of loss, there's this anger, there's fear, there's all these emotions, and then you put on top of that, how do you go and tell the families of these victims that they weren't targeted for any reason other than they were there to be a target? They were shot multiple times. We have multiple, 9, 10, 11 shell casings at each of these scenes. this is awful.
Jeff, the teenage victim at Cracker Barrel, why the confusion over whether she survived or not? And do you expect that she might survive?
I'm gonna cross my fingers, say a prayer, and I'm gonna hope like hell that she does. Will she? I don't know. There was initial reports that she was deceased that was made to the police, and that information was passed on. But she wasn't. And I don't know how to talk about it in medical terms, so I'm just gonna say they thought she was deceased. She wasn't. Call it a miracle, call it what you want, but she's alive now.
To clarify about the bar, was he not in the bar then? And
Not that I know
if
of. I
not-
don't know where he was immediately before. All I know is that the sheriff's department deputy saw the vehicle that matched and went from there.
What time was he arrested?
It was approximately 12:30.
So there was about a 2-hour period where you had what you knew to be a mass shooting suspect at large. How was the community informed, and what information went out to them about the threat? Do you know?
The community was immediately informed through the media about the shootings that had happened. There was immediate reach out by law enforcement and the command at law enforcement to make sure that the community knew what was happening, and that they were what I want to say is on the case, that they were on the job. There was this coordinated effort between multiple police agencies sharing information and working as fast as possible. We were in the middle of working 2 crime scenes. The police were in the middle of working 2 crime scenes actively at Sealy and at the Cracker Barrel, while they are flooding the city with every available officer looking for the suspect vehicle, and find it in downtown Kalamazoo an hour after this happened. This couldn't have been done any faster. This was a remarkable outcome at this point, to have a suspect identified, located, in custody, and to be here the next morning at 7 o'clock. This is, for as awful as this is, we are right now in as good of a place as we can be.
Do you think he wanted to get caught? He didn't put up a
No.
fight after everything? No?
No.
Do you think he had more victims on his list that he was after if you hadn't interrupted?
I don't think that he had a list. There is no question in my mind that the police work that was done in this incident saved lives. No question. Being able to locate him and take him into custody without further harm to the police or to anyone else is a remarkable job having been done by law enforcement. And there is, given what happened and how this happened, and there's just no question that more people would have died if they hadn't found him when they did.
Was he in contact with anybody between 6 p.m. yesterday and 12:40 this morning that you know of?
Yes.
Can you tell me who?
No.
Did you get a cell phone from him?
I believe so, yes.
Was he in contact with several people?
I don't know what your definition of several is, but I think he was in contact with more than one.
What about social media?
Not that I know of.
No charges that you would anticipate for anybody he might have been in contact with?
At this point, based on the investigation that we have right now, the only person I would anticipate being charged is him. Where the investigation goes, I can't predict that at this time, but I don't have any information that would cause me to believe that there was anyone else involved other than Mr. Dalton.
Do you even talk to people on the phone, or texted, or use social media?
They're looking at the phone right now. to determine whether or not it has any evidentiary value. Whether it does or doesn't, I don't know.
What charges are you considering?
6 people are dead. 2 people were shot multiple times. So I would expect, based upon the information I anticipate, we'll get all of the reports. We'll make sure that we review all of the reports in order to make a fair assessment of the evidence that we have. But 6 counts of murder, 2 counts of assault with intent to commit murder, 6 counts of felony firearm, and then we'll see from there.
And you have no idea why now? There was a stressor or anything that you can point to that says, I mean, you may have an idea, but you can't tell us?
I can't tell you. The police are investigating information. There is some information out there about what was happening, but you know, of course, it doesn't come anywhere near to explain what he's done.
What information is out there?
Nothing that I can't talk about right now.
Did he work where he did?
I believe he was employed, yes. I'm not going to talk about where or what. That information will come out along the way here, but I think that the best place to end this, unless there's any more significant questions, is to say this is a very active and evolving investigation still. The point of this is to make sure that the community knows that we do not believe that there was anyone else involved, that a suspect is in custody, that there is no continuing threat to the community from this incident, and that the police are continuing to and will continue to be actively investigating all 3 of these incidents so that we can move forward in the criminal justice system to make sure that there's accountability for his actions.